Welcome to another episode of the Science and Spirituality podcast. We have me here, Kevin. We got Chris, and we have a special guest, my good friend Michaela. And she is an amazing human being that I met here in Colorado at a networking event in a very random way. It's like I was just about to leave, and like 2 minutes before I did, like we connected. And sparks flew, and just we've been connected since, and it's been amazing. And she has a very fascinating business, which I'm looking forward to getting into depth with, of like how this all came about, which I believe will serve each and every one of you listening. And she has a business called Karma Koaches, where she connects coaches and coaches with clients, which is amazing. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to have you on here, Michaela. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So excited.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's dive in first of like, just give it a bit of a background of like who you are, like where you're from, like, and what brought you to this work of helping coaches and clients and all that.
Oh my goodness, that is like a really big question. Who am I? Where am I from? Oh man.
Yeah. Go wherever you
um,
want with it.
yeah, absolutely. So I think I'll go with where am I from first. So I'm from Colorado Springs, and I was born and raised there, and I lived there for about 27 years, I guess, 27, 28 years. And so most of my family lives there, and I grew up, I guess, in the city of Colorado Springs. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a background, is a little bit, it's a very different place than what, say, Denver is, or any other suburb around Denver. Colorado Springs is a wonderful place to grow up in, and I was super grateful to like move
Mm.
into a different place. So that was like a long chapter, but then as with any chapter, a chapter closes and then starts anew. And so, and then who am I? Who am I? Let's see here. I am an entrepreneur. I absolutely love dogs. I love human beings. I enjoy having really deep conversations with people. And I'm a human that enjoys to laugh a lot. I
Mm.
really enjoy laughter.
Mm. How'd you get into the coaching business? Because I know you said you love people. Is there a connection there?
Is there a connection? I've asked myself that one a lot to try and like figure out like what was there for me. And there's a couple pieces. So previously I owned a pet sitting and dog walking company. I've been an entrepreneur for about 11 years now. And so I owned that company for about 9. And with dogs, like they just love you purely. Like you walk in and they're like, oh my God, I am so happy that you're here most of the time. Every once in a while there's a dog that like wants to chew on you, but you just kind of move past that. So within that, what I learned with the dogs was that they just purely love. And so I learned a lot of lessons with the dogs as to what love really looks like. Because even though if I get hurt or something like that by another human being, I still get the opportunity to still show up and still clean up, like whatever that cleanup looks like. And so I learned I should write a book at some point as to all the things that I learned from dogs, because then after that, a few years ago, I had a couple seizures that like completely pivoted my life, where it was just like I got that I was no longer in a space that would actually work for me. Like I was done with the pet sitting business, and I also knew though that there was something else out there for me to do. And so I was able to then go, okay, what do I want to do? And I didn't really know, but I knew it had to be with people. And because dogs had already taught me all the lessons that I needed to learn at that particular point. And so I completed that business, and I sold to the pet sitting company. And then I thought, well, what do I want to do now? And I really got into all the transformation work and training, and really got into like, who am I? What do I like? What do I not like? How do I work? Who do I like to connect to? All those pieces that somehow, as an entrepreneur and owning a business, I had never really answered per se for myself. And so then after that, then I was going, okay, what is it that I like really want to do? And I thought, I had this meditation, and it was the craziest meditation that I had experienced, which was that being able to touch every single person on the planet. I thought, well, how in the world do I do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And, sometimes I've had meditations in the past where I'm going, I am so confused and I need more information on this. Mm-hmm. And so the journey unfolded with like, okay, I want to do Karma Koaches because I want coaches to be inspired within their own transformation to be able to touch other people in their lives. Mm-hmm. And so the vehicle that I'm currently using is through the Karma Koaches platform, so that coaches are able to connect to themselves, which then allows them to connect to their clients through a question or what have you, and then allows for the transformation, which then allows for that ripple effect within both the coaches and also the clients' lives. Because see, in a coach-client relationship, it's a relationship. It's not a one-way street. It's always a two-way street. There's always more learning to be had. And so I know that's a super long answer to a very short question, but there you go. That's been the journey.
Yeah, really, really good.
It was a short question, but it was also a loaded question as well. So
yeah.
And I just wanted to hear, yeah, definitely.
I have a follow-up question for that, because people listening might look at you and be like, wow, like, Michaela, an entrepreneur for 11 years, it's amazing. And I would love to hear, what was the challenge, or one of, if there's a couple, yeah. Probably a couple. What was the challenge for you to make that transition and begin something new? Because people listening, there's definitely some people listening who probably want to start something and have some fears, have some doubts. And like, so how did you go through those challenges to start and grow your second business?
Start and grow the second business. So I think the biggest piece is like, being able to step into a space of like being able to completely fail, like totally. And like, cause failure and success to me is just a story of like, what I create is powerful or not. That's all failure and success is. And so if I'm willing to learn something completely new, I'm willing to learn a completely new platform on technology, online, work with new people, have new challenges. Like, I think the biggest piece in business for myself is that I'm always the one that gets into my own way. Always. Mm-hmm. And there's never a time where I've been like, oh yeah, this person's in my way. No, it's me. Which totally stinks every time. So it's like, oh my goodness. So then the question for myself always is, okay, if I'm not growing and I'm not expanding within business or within my personal life, whatever that looks like, then what is it that's causing that to not move forward within me? Is it some story that I'm telling? Is it some attachment that I have about an outcome? All of those. So that's like an umbrella of like challenges, I guess you could say. In the case of specifics, I want to take this back to the pet sitting company, actually, as to like some of the challenges that I had experienced within there, because like each day I felt in some capacities like success, fail, and sometimes like within the entire day it was just this way, that way, this way, that way. And so it's all a story, and I get it. And so, but what I had seen within the pet sitting business was that I had consistently not gotten enough pet sitters. Like, I was so frustrated with the fact that I could not get like the right pet sitters. And by the right, I'm putting that in quotes, because it's a dynamic to me where energetically, if I'm putting it out there that this is what I want, then I will for sure get it back 100%. And so I was having all these challenges with getting these pet sitters, and they just wouldn't follow through on like what they said that they would do. And like, we would have contracts and everything, and then ultimately I was the one who got to do the work. And so what I finally got, though, was that I had to put the systems in place to be able to support operationally the business, so that like I knew exactly what was going to happen next. And so A happens, then B happens, then C happens. And then if for some reason a pet sitter did not follow through on A, B, and C, and they went from A to M, and it was not like fully operational, and they just thought that they could skip through the steps, then I knew that they weren't a good fit. And so in the context of those types of challenges, logistically, there's always challenges in business. There's always something where it's like, man, I really don't know how to solve this. And then it requires like 3 hours of research, and 3 hours later, you're still like, I still don't know. So I think it's just also the acceptance of like not knowing, and that it's okay to not know, and that it's okay to be in that space.
It's kind of crazy. Like the two things that I was hearing that stuck out to me was the being okay not knowing, and then also being okay failing, like stepping into failure. And I think that's like just something that so many people that I know are taught from a very young age, like to shy away from, right? Like you're in school and you're rewarded for knowing things. Like you're not rewarded for saying, I don't know. And then you're rewarded, like when you get a 90 on a test, the teacher's like, you got 10% wrong. There's always that like that part of, I feel like, growing up in our educational system that teaches you that failure is not okay. But then, you know, when you talk to people who are entrepreneurs and people who are very successful, like the first thing that they mention is I failed I failed this and this times. And because I failed this and this times, like I learned this and this from that. So I think it was just really great what you said too about success and failure, like that they're, I forgot exactly the words you used, but the only difference is like the story that you tell yourselves about them. And that's what you mentioned. So that's like really, really awesome too. And then another thing that's one of like my biggest things is where people place their locus of control. And so when you were saying that, you know, you're the one that usually gets in your own way, I feel like that's the case with so many people. But so many people don't recognize that they're the ones getting in their way, and they place the locus of control outside of themselves, and they're saying something else is getting in my way. And it's not putting themselves in a position of power to be able to overcome that, because if you put your sense of control outside of you, then you're always going to feel out of control. But if you put your sense of control within you, then, you know, it rides on your back. And that's a lot of responsibility for someone to take too, but it's also very important because that's how you become super successful and be able to start businesses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up, because it brought a visual. So I'm like a super visual person. So like within my meditations, I'm always like in picture mode. And so like movies and all of that. And so within that, what that brought up was that there was a point in my life, this was a few years ago, where I had thought like happiness lived outside of me. Right? It was like I was on one side of the river and happiness was out there, and it was on the other side of the river. And so I was consistently looking at the other side of the river, like, I want happiness. I want that. I want it right now. And yet, whenever I like look back, and of course hindsight's 2020, of course, to be able to see like the integration and things like that, walking across the river to like go to each stone and like step on each stone, I literally had to be present with that stone, whether it was a person, a place, or a thing that was showing me where does happiness live. And then ultimately, once I got across, then it completely integrated here, right? And so like it completely integrated within me to where it was no longer that piece that's outside of me, rather it's completely within.
That your story right there just reminded me of I know Chris has seen the movie, but Michaela, have you seen the Harry Potter movies?
Oh my gosh, of course.
Okay.
I love Harry Potter.
Well, do you remember the scene when he was like saved from the Dementors by the what was it called? What's the spell? Something Patronum?
The Patronus stone?
Patronus spell, yeah. And
Yeah.
like it was that reindeer, like spoiler alert, if you've never seen Harry Potter, it was himself that was, you know, just casting that spell.
Yes.
So it's like I love that. It's just like you walked over that river to find out, well, like that happiness is actually you and it's within you all the time.
Yeah.
And then another part of this, the visual too, that hit me like right away was when you were talking about the stepping stones and like realizing that you have to be present at each stepping stone. Cause that's like a big thing with a lot of people too, is that they're always either thinking about the past, they're always either thinking about the future. And I mean, there's a time for both, but it's like you can't do anything except for in the present moment. Like you can plan all you want for the future, but then you have to bring yourself back to the present and ask yourself, what can I do right now in this moment? Because this moment is all I ever have. And now this moment, and now this moment, and now this moment. Like you always got to live in the present moment, because that's where the greatest change can be enacted, so that you can kind of change your course to get to that future in the first place.
Exactly.
So too, yeah. And if you're living in the present moment, it's not easy a lot of times, but what's the saying? It's like not simple, but it's not easy, but it's simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
Simple,
Simple, but not easy.
I feel like that's like a really good way to describe living in the present, because like it is kind of simple to do. Like you just become aware of what's going on, but it's not easy because our minds are usually always racing on something like where am I going to eat next, or how am I going to make money this month, or like, you know, all these things that are going on in our minds, especially nowadays in the times we're living in. But being in the present, it's like, it's just so powerful because that's where we have the power. That's where we have the power to make choices.
It's so one of the pieces that I forgot within the visualization was like stepping across those stones, but like whenever I am focused across the river, I will literally fall flat on my face every time. Like every time whenever I'm looking out there, and because I'm not looking at where my feet are. And I'm not looking at where that stone is to be able to step to the next stone, to then step to the next stone. And like if that's not where my thought process or my energy is, and then I can guarantee you I will fall flat into the abyss of the water and like splash all over and the whole thing. And that's within my relationships. That's also within my business. That's within every area, because then if I'm focused out there and I'm not focused right here as to like what I need to actually be doing, to like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot, like that type of mode, then I can't create what it is that I actually need, want, and desire to be in that. So anyways, I just forgot that piece.
Have you struggled with that as an entrepreneur and business owner, like that idea of, you know, having needing everything to work, obviously, you know, like for the business to run, and having like future plans for the business, being like, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and then balancing that with what can I do right now in the moment?
Oh my gosh, like literally every like 10 minutes. Like it's all the time, every day. And it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, what's going on right now? Where do I need to go? How do I need to connect? And then what do I need to do? How do I need to do this? It's that constant question of how do I want to connect? What does that look like? Let's go. And some of the times it's, what do I want to do right now? I want to go do a meditation. Okay, let's go do a meditation. And then like outside of that, sometimes it might be 5-6 o'clock at night and I'm able to like do work at a level that I wasn't able to do at like say 10 or 11 in the morning, because whenever that presence happens and like I'm able to be fully within that intention as to what I want to create, then I create it, period. Like there's nothing that can get into my way whenever I'm fully present in the space of creation.
Do you have
in my way whenever I'm not? Jeez.
Yeah. Do you have specific practices, or like maybe by now you've created some kind of system where you can get yourself into that mode of presence and creation as someone who's a creator and stuff? Like, is there, like, do you ever find challenges with that where it's like, you know, you need to get something done, but it's like, you just don't feel like you're in the mood kind of thing? Or
I love the quote.
you're in the presence and creativity in order to get that done. Because I feel like I feel like that's been one of my major challenges, especially with my Instagram, where like there's times where I feel really awesome and I'll make like 40 or 50 posts in like a week, and it's just like the stuff's flowing, like the copy's flowing, and then there's other weeks where I'm just like, I don't feel like posting anything.
Yeah. I get it. I really do. For me, what shows up is just a story about whether I'm good enough or not. And because it's all a story about whether or not I'm in the flow or not. And so if I want to tap in, then I will tap in. If I don't, then I won't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple. It's like, and so for me, what I do, I eat super healthy and super clean. And so that cognitively, I'm like there. I also make sure that I have relationships in my life that are full and abundant and create with me and are not just one-sided or one way, or like that there's a dance and like within that back and forth. I have created too the ability to be able to have accountability people in my life. So folks that will hold me accountable to what I say that I'm going to do, and then they call me out on my stuff whenever I don't. Where they go, okay, great, I got like where you're sourcing from, so what is the story behind that? And then, you know, I turn into a little puddle, and then I'm back to where I'm supposed to be, right? Supposed to, of course, in quotes. And it's really just bringing myself back into my own power and back into the present moment. And so then I also create it so that I have time to just literally be creative. And just like thinking time. I love to think, and I love to like create from a space of like, I wonder if this could be solved. And what would happen if, like, I have all kinds of ideas that would be super fun to see them come to fruition. But at the same time, it's just allowing for the brain to like think and go from this point to that point to this point to that point, and not necessarily in an organized fashion. But it's the constant, it's systems is a piece of it also. Is like making sure that I do my meditation practice every day, even if I don't want to. And because yet again, it's that same thing of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do my meditation practice. Oh man, I don't feel it. Why do I not feel connected? Oh my gosh. And like that commentary that goes on in my mind. And so rather than just doing the darn thing and seeing what shows up, because it really doesn't matter. Nothing could show up in a meditation. Okay, great. Like, and it's a constant ebb and flow. Or there's like other times where I've been in a meditation where they're epic and it's amazing. And it's like, oh my gosh, life is so cool. And so like, if I want to be in that space, then that's where I get the opportunity to create. The other piece within the systems and operationally as to how things can be possible to work is being able to also get a mentor. And so I'm definitely one where I enjoy mentors, and not just accountability people, but like a mentor that can show me ways that I haven't thought of, and to also show me things that provide insight within my own life. And so just things to try on and to see like what that looks like. So does that help maybe?
No, that was great.
Everything.
No, that was really good, because I'm thinking of especially what you were saying about the meditation. It's just, Kev, we had our episode last week was about the like showing up even when you don't feel like it.
Yep.
because you get that sense of accomplishment after you show up, especially on the days where you don't feel like it. Like if you're doing a workout program, you don't feel like working out, but you built in those systems, like you said, of it's almost like a habit or like a lifestyle where it's like, this is just what I do. And I think those, like building that into your brain circuitry and your nervous system is super important, because we're humans and there's going to be days when we don't want to do it. But having that in place, yeah. And one of my biggest things too that I talk about, which like it's one of my biggest shortfalls too, is like the creation of momentum. Like if you meditate for 2 months straight, like you're going to have momentum and you're not going to want to skip that 61st day. But if you're meditating once and then you skip 3 days, and then it'll become easier to skip that fourth one because you created negative momentum. So like those systems in place are like super important because of what they build inside of you, like the character that they build. So I resonated with that a lot. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think one of the pieces that shows up around meditation for me is that I'll be like having a practice and like everything's totally good, and then all of a sudden like stuff hits the fan, and then I'm like, nope, don't want to do meditation. Nope. Or I do want to do meditation. However, I want to do meditation in the context of actually being able to run from what it is to actually be present to. And that's the other piece that, like, for myself, it's okay, what is it that I'm running from? What is it that I actually want to create? And how can I stand in that space of creation? Because, like, in a meditation, one of the magnificent things is being able to connect to the heart, right? And actually be able to feel, like, all the feels. Like, whatever that feeling is for people or for myself, is that there's that connection right there, and then there's the connection out. And so like being able to create that momentum and or that vortex or whatever you want to call that, is being able to reach out in a way energetically to allow for all the energy of the universe to come within. And so because we can all tap into the energy of the universe, totally can. And there's no reason why not. And it's just a consistent practice of being able to, for me, I'm back to the visualization again, I can't help myself, is to connect to the heart and then connect to each chakra. And so then as the circle comes around, energetically, to be able to feel that circle, then the circle becomes bigger and bigger and bigger as it continues to go around. And it doesn't mean that like every single meditation I'm doing that. It just means that like that can cause momentum to be able to be brought within, because for me what typically happens is physically I feel depleted energetically. And so if that's the case, then I get the opportunity to bring energy in. And if for some reason the spiritual space doesn't feel like there's enough energy there, then the energy can be brought from the physical body out into the spiritual space. So that then, yet again, it's being brought out, and then it can be connected into like the rest of the universe, and then everything can then be able to tie in and be brought in to you. That's what most people want, I think.
Yeah. the theme that I was hearing over and over again too in my head while you were describing that is flow, like the constant flow of energy, whether it's in to out or out to in, there has to be that constant flow. And we talk about that a lot in Chinese medicine too, with acupuncture. It's like that's what like a lot of people's disorders conditions actually start with a stagnation of energy. And a lot of people don't know how to process emotions sometimes, and we're almost taught to run from emotions, and you don't want to feel certain things. But when you don't feel those certain things, like you allow them to persist because you don't allow them to come up and then kind of like go through. So one thing, like my girlfriend has a dog, and I've been around cats my whole life. So it's been really awesome, like being around dogs, just kind of tying it back to the beginning of the podcast. And one of the very interesting things that I noticed that a dog will do when he or she gets really excited or like chases after a squirrel or like runs after it, like after the squirrel's gone, they'll shake their whole body out. Like they'll shake everything out to kind of get back into that like calm state.
Yeah.
And like they're just so good at that because they intuitively know. Whereas like humans sometimes, like there's times where it's like you just feel like hitting a pillow, but it's like, oh, that's not socially acceptable to hit a pillow. But it's like your body's like telling you like move energy, like let it come through somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that constant movement's like really important. Yeah.
Constant movement is super important. I had no idea that, like, so I used to obviously walk dogs, and so there would be days where I would go for hours and hours and hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I was used to walking dogs all the time, and then whenever I stopped, I all of a sudden went, oh my goodness, I need like some type of movement. And so what dance has provided for me is that movement, but in a very different way. So exactly what you're describing, and exactly in that same space with dogs, they know exactly what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just be like, yep, I know, I'm not stressed anymore. Okay, back to the present. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
They just like literally, you just like hang out with a dog, and it's like they're just living their best life, like no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, it is a really good lesson, honestly. They're just like super happy when like you wake up in the morning and they're like, oh my god, like it's a great day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's like,
Great.
That's crazy.
Hey, so I have a follow-up question, Michaela, and we'll bring this episode in for a landing with this. Is or out of everything you described, one thing that kept popping in my head is like, okay, because I'm thinking of like someone listening is like, this all sounds amazing, like of what you're sharing, what you do. I'm sure tons of people, people are picking up on really good things that they can implement in their life that maybe they have thought of or not thought of. But so my question that I think that could help others is like, what motivates you to actually do all of this? Like, what's your why? Like, what's the inspiration behind all this to make these consistent practices and always come back to your center and and get better as a person? So what is that for you?
So I think it's a pretty simple answer. So I personally believe that every single person has the same purpose on this planet. And that purpose is to connect to myself so I can connect to others. And that's it. And so if that's my purpose, then for the betterment of the planet and also myself, then I get the opportunity to deal with all my stuff. I get the opportunity to focus on myself. I get the opportunity to focus on my health. And I get the opportunity to focus on my spiritual connection to myself. And at the end of the day, I'm the one who gets to face me at the end of this whole thing. And so if I get the opportunity to face me, then if my purpose is to connect to myself so I can connect to others, then I want other people to be able to be present around me. I want others to be able to stand in their power with me. And I want others to be able to show up exactly as they are. I want others to be able to feel safe and loved and connected to me. But I have to do that within. And I have to continuously practice that. And it's a minute by minute thing.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where I see my thoughts go and then I gotta bring them back. Then I see my thoughts go, oh, gotta bring them back. And it's just that constant, that my purpose and everybody else's purpose is to connect to themselves so they can connect to others. So
beautiful, elegant,
like so simple, but like very powerful. Yeah,
because that's really just life itself. And so like all of these, because reason I asked that is because I think of myself too, that like there are times in my life where like I'm like, oh, like I don't want to do the work. Like what you're telling you're saying before is like this story that like I don't want to do the meditation, like, but like the motivation that comes back, it sounds like for you, is that just remembering that purpose that we all share to like connect to ourselves, to connect to others. And that's ultimately what we all just want, to feel connected with ourselves, with others, with life itself, with everything. So it's awesome.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
So with that said, where can people find you, Michaela? Like that they can connect with you as they connect with themselves. If they're connecting with themselves here, they're like, oh man, I want to connect with Michaela. Where can they find you?
So you can find me on Facebook. I think it's Michaela D. Smith.
Okay.
For sure. And then Karma Koaches, it goes directly to me. So it's Karma and then Coaches with a K. So KARMA and then KOACHES.com. And they can connect to me through there. They can email me at any point. You can call me. I don't care. It's great. It's all fabulous. I tell everybody, just connect to me in whatever form or fashion through LinkedIn too. That's another one, Michaela Smith.
Yeah.
Out there. And so whatever that looks like for people, I am always open and available.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll put those links in the description of this podcast so people can connect with you. And I just want to give a special shout out to what your business is doing. The Karma Koaches, I've been connected with you now for about a month. Actually, no, like 2 months now. It's just been amazing of what the work that you have done, the coaches I've met through your business. It's just phenomenal. So if any coaches are out there, I highly recommend you check out her business and what she has to offer. It's really phenomenal. So thanks for being on the podcast, Michaela.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys. It was great
You're welcome.
fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I'll talk to everyone soon.